Hey guys, and welcome to this showcase video for the Just Trains Hope Valley extension to the Midland Main Line family of routes. As always with these showcase videos, it's not a review. I've been involved with the development process of it, and I'm very impartial obviously to it, so a review would not be fair. So this is just a showcase. It will be showing you around the route, explaining reasons why we've done certain things and also reasons why we haven't done certain things, and generally going on about the development of the route and showing you the key areas of it, and we'll explain in detail about various parts of it. What we're going to be driving is one of the included scenarios, and that is using the Alan Thompson Sim Imbu Studios Class 185 DMU, and we're going to be driving scenario 1 Bravo 68, the 0753 Manchester Airport to Cleethorpes, and we'll be taking this one from here at Manchester Piccadilly through to Sheffield. We'll be stopping at Stockport along the way, and we're due to arrive in Sheffield in about 55 minutes time. So we're going to open the doors here at Piccadilly. They're opening. We've got about a minute or so until we're due off, so we've got a little bit of time to have a fly around here at Piccadilly and take in the scenes. One of the biggest stations we've actually put into a Just Trains route. We were trying to think of some bigger ones and we couldn't really, in terms of the detail that we've gone through with modern standards and everything like that. You know, we've got Bristol obviously, but it's an older station. As Temple Meads, it's an older model. Nottingham was rather large, but nothing on this scale. This is a station with 12 platforms inside the main engine shed, and of course these two through platforms, 13 and 14, on the outside. So you can see there you've got another Transpennine unit departing. So yeah, we've got the two outside platforms here, the two through platforms, that's 13 and 14, and that obviously goes down towards Aldsall and everything, and Bolton and Preston and whatnot. You can go that way. Over here you got Mayfield Station, so that's the older station there, the disused one. Now we've put that in there because obviously it stands out quite a lot at Piccadilly. What we haven't done is we haven't gone over the top, so we haven't included things such as the tram lines underneath, purely because that would just be taken away from performance when you don't need to be taken away from performance. We're very conscious that it's a bit of a performance hit because of the size of the place and the fact that on top of that you've got, looking this way, as you get out of the station area, you've got Hardwick to the left, one side straight ahead, so you've got a lot going on in this immediate area of Piccadilly. But yeah, Callum Green's the guy that's done the station model. He did a few of the other ones in the last year or so, since he joined the company the last 18 months. But this is by far the biggest project that he's ever undertaken, and certainly impressed with what he's managed to achieve under the station canopy and generally across this whole sort of building. It's quite impressive. So the platforms that have a run round loop as well are created here. So you've got this platform 6 and I believe it's 5 that have got the run round loop. That's from when obviously you used to have cross country workings with 86s and stuff on 47s, and also West Coast service as well, although they didn't need to run round obviously, but that's what that dates back to. And you got these like plates that go between the tracks as well. They've been added in. From the roof, I actually questioned whether these were floating originally. They were actually hangers. That was something that caught me out. But they're not. They're actually attached to the bars above. I think in real life there are actually a few more cables and stuff, but it was a bit unnecessary to keep doing that on every single one of those gantries, to put like thousands of them on. So we went for the bare minimum really with those. On the outside, it's quite low detailed at the back because really you don't need to see the back, and there's no point going over the top of the back for the sake of going over the top sort of thing. And generally speaking, the scenery is quite basic once you get away, and it doesn't go very far because again you're trying to keep it sort of minimalised as much as we possibly can. Now this route has not been developed by me and Tom, like most of the MML add-ons. It's actually been developed by Nick Wyszynski, and I'm told that's totally probably murdering his name, to be honest, and I apologise Nick if it is, but that's you'll see in the manual that he's credited there for the route work, and he's done a fantastic job with it. So we're ready to depart. Let's get underway here from Piccadilly. First stop, as I said, is Stockport. That's in 5.74 miles. And turn game sound up a little bit so you can hear it a bit better. So we're departing here from platform 9 at Piccadilly. 15 mile an hour limit as we depart. Now as you leave Piccadilly and come into Piccadilly, the speed limits in real life are different. They're lower coming in. So you get that good old TS thing like we had at Derby on the Midland Main Line, where the speed on the hood isn't actually the speed limit. Going outwards in this direction it's actually correct. that is the speed limit we should be doing. But going the other way, you'll find that the speed limit on your hood is actually lower than what you've seen on a sign or whatever, if that makes sense. Sorry, the speed limit in the signs is actually lower than what you see on the hoods. Quite complicated to explain, but basically TS can't simulate different speed limits in different directions. It can only simulate one speed limit on a certain set of tracks. So you have to go obviously with the higher speed limit and do it that way. So you'll see going in the opposite direction, it's signposted lower than it actually is. So we're coming out over the point work outside Piccadilly. It's a maze of lines out of here. It's fantastic. When it's really busy, you can see just how much traffic's going on around this area. And you've got quite a few different lines and stuff. You got stuff like the goods loop on the right. You got the engine loop in the middle. And when it's busy, it really is quite something to see in train sim. So we're coming up now to Hardwick Junction. Now, with this Hope Valley route, what we decided to do was try and do as much as we possibly could in terms of the railway network. And I'll better show you the map actually before we get too far out here. We decided to do as much as we can. We didn't want to just do one of the routes, which would have actually been the sensible way to go about it. Would have been to do one of the routes out of Manchester because of the financial aspects of trying to do two. But we realised that would limit scenarios in such a way that really you would be very limited on what you could actually achieve. So we went with the idea of doing both the line from Piccadilly to New Mills South Junction via Stockport and Hazel Grove, which is this one. So you've got Stockport there, Hazel Grove, and then out to New Mills. And we also did the line from New Mills South Junction through New Mills Central, along through Romiley, Bredbury, eventually to Ashbury's past Hardwick and into Piccadilly. Now, people, obviously, the obvious question is going to be, why didn't we just do, and this is just is in inverted commas, why didn't we do the section from Ashbury's to Guidebridge and then down here to Woodley? And in short, that is not any easy task. That's quite a lot of serious route building there. You're not just talking 4 days work, you're talking weeks of work. And it's just not cost effective to do all three, especially considering that the two main routes are the ones that you see here represented. They're the two main ones. So we wanted to ensure that both of those got created. There is a few little extras that you get with the route. You do actually get the section to Woodley because we wanted to include Bredbury Tilcon and the stuff there. So you can do little scenario. There is a scenario that takes you down there with the stone train from Tunstead. You go from Chinley down to there and you shunt and everything. It's quite cool. And we also wanted to include the Rosehill Marple branch because it's a fairly short branch. It makes sense to include it. Now, I know you're all going to cry out saying, well, the services from Rosehill Marple don't go that way via Bredbury. Obviously, most of them go this way, so kind of useless if that were the case. There is a couple of scenario services. I think it's 2S99 goes this way. And as I say, it's a very, very short piece of track. It was like I think it would sort of take a couple of days to do the route build and then a couple more for the assets for it. So it wasn't a great expense to actually do that. So we decided to make sure that that was done like that. And it just gives people that little bit of extra. The Buxton Line is not really included at all. It's included to about here, just after Hazel Grove. But then you've got the main Hope Valley route, which starts then at New Mills South Junction. It really kicks off and you go across through Chinley, which is here. You've also got the triangular junction just after Chinley. Carries on through Cowburn Tunnel, which is that long straight. Then you've got down to Earl Sidings, and we did include the Hope cement branch. So you've got the cement works and everything down there. There's a scenario by Malcolm Elliott that you can do to actually go and shunt around the yards and everything. And then you go right through to Grindleford. And eventually you join the Sheffield to Derby line at Door junctions. And then obviously if you own more than just Hope Valley, if you own, say, Sheffield to Derby, well, you've got to own Sheffield to Derby, but if you own, for instance, Derby, Nottingham, Leicester, and somebody makes a scenario, you could essentially drive all the way from Piccadilly to Nottingham. We have done it and it's quite an incredible run. And even driving through to Lincoln, that's a really, really long run that you can do in TS terms. So there's quite a lot that you can achieve with this, and we've sort of just scratched the surface with it really. We wanted to leave obviously I'd say crazy scenarios to the guys that are in the community that can do the crazy scenarios, because we didn't want to use 10,000 requirements to do the scenarios for the route. We've had to use a lot, but we wanted to sort of limit it a little bit. So this is Hardwick Junction. Now Tom's going to do another video, I believe, which will cover this section. We can't cover it all in one video, obviously. So this is Hardwick that you've got here, and this is the TransPennine depot that's been added into the route. You get the train wash and everything here, and then you've obviously got the main shed itself and the fueling points and stuff like that. So we wanted to ensure that that was included, and adds a little area for extra scenario potential, particularly obviously as TransPennine units coming in and out of there quite a lot. And you got up towards Ashburst, and this will be as far as obviously I can fly in this direction, but this is Ashburst Station, and this is where the line to Bredbury, Romilly, and obviously up towards the Hope Valley branches off to the right. The line to the left is the Guy Bridge one. Ignore the fact there's no scenery there, that's because I've got it in pause and we're not close enough to it. But that's towards Guy Bridge, and that's where the route basically ends. And then down towards the right, as I say, that goes to Romilly and onwards to Ords, Newmill Central. Quite a lot of scenario potential actually from Newmill Central, obviously, because you can do stuff like services that go and terminate at Newmill Central. You know, the Pacers used to do quite a lot of stopping services that started at Newmill Central from the sidings there. So again, that's more interesting stuff that you can do. And then just when you think you're clear in Manchester, you hit Lonside Depot, which is another large sort of area. Now, ignore the... pretend you haven't seen the LMS livery Pendo that's in there. That's in there, one, to try and keep requirements down, but also to... without being impolite, the Avanti Pendolino from DCG is not the most frame rate friendly thing, and we wanted to try and avoid it if we could. So we have done. Obviously, there's V-skins for a lot of people use the older Pendolino with the reskin liveries and stuff on it. We can't do that with this. You can't use reskins in a pay-away product, essentially. So that's why we've gone with that thing. But obviously, it's an AI train, so it's not a player train, so it doesn't really matter that much. And there'll be lots of people in the community that will make authentic scenarios. You can bet your bottom dollar, and I'm looking forward to seeing those. But yeah, this is Lonside Depot. We've not gone over the top with it. Again, there is detail in here, but we didn't want to kill the game just for the sake of a depot. So, authentic depot buildings created by Benedict. He's done a good job with those. And you can't go in any of them again, because that would just be killing the game for the sake of it. And also, it's mainly Virgin stuff that goes in there. Not Virgin, but Avanti stuff that goes in there, the Pendos and stuff like that. Really, there's no point in that, because they're not the focus of this route. This isn't a West Coast route. This is the Hope Valley. The 185s and stuff like that don't go in there, obviously. On this side, you got the Alstom side, and you got this. I think this was at one point, was it not something to do with the Channel Tunnel, that depot? I seem to remember. I might just be making that up, but I seem to remember that's what that was to do originally. So, yeah, you've got all sorts of lines going through the middle of here, and it's a pretty cool sort of setup in this area. So you got the tiny little staff halt here as well. It's just quite a cool little thing. I noticed that when I was doing the signalling and stuff on here. It's quite a beast little thing. Is this little platform at Lonside? It's tiny, but it's a little staff halt that's there. So we're now coming down to Slade Lane Junction, which is where the Manchester Airport line and whatnot diverges to the right, which is where this train would have initially come from. We're just pulling down towards a red signal. And whilst we're on the subject of signals, it's probably worth mentioning that the Midland Main Line Sheffield to Derby version 1.11, which was released prior to Hope Valley, so is a compatibility requirement for it. Benedict's actually included in the Common Library a fix for the signals which have been broken. We're not sure what broke them, but they broke around sort of, I want to say 18 months ago, something like that. And we found that it was possible to repair them. What was happening is that they were not becoming visible until you were like a quarter of a mile away. They were sort of bouncing into view. Benedict's has fixed those, and we now got glows on the signal, so you can actually see them quite a long way off. You can't see them in the video probably, but if I zoom in, you can see them right down there in the distance. But I can see them now in cab view as well in the distance. So That's something that's nice to have fixed, and it's great driving, particularly at night, and you can see the signals in the distance ahead of you. I noticed it's really good on the Lincoln line at night, because you see such a long way to the next signal. It's quite cool. But yeah, we're just passing Slade Junction. What we're going to do is we're going to cross over, and I think we go on to the slows from here towards Stockport. 45-mile-an-hour junction, as you can see. And we're now approaching Levenshulme, so we're going to go across here onto the slow, where the limit now becomes 75. Under the ground. But yeah, this is Levenshulme Station, so this is the first station out of Piccadilly. And again, away from the track, it's pretty basic sort of scenery. Not gone too crazy with it. Nick hasn't gone too crazy with it, but the station and everything we've tried to recreate as closely as we can to real life. And swiftly after you've gone through there, you're soon on to Eaton Chapel Station, which is the next one coming up. And that's one of the ones that I actually really like. It's one of my favourite stations on the route. So we'll have a good little look around that as we're getting down here. There is a section here where we obviously go towards Stockport as well. Stockport's only now 2 miles away, so you can sort of see the intensity of this area. It's non-stop for Train Simulator. I should put the frame rate up in the top corner really. And it's sort of hovering for me mid-40s at the moment, which is absolutely fine, considering how much it's trying to draw in at Stockport. Stockport's not quite as intense as Piccadilly should add. Piccadilly you're getting 25-30 if you've got a lot of AI in there. Just going to try and get a screenshot here. See how I've a look around here. This is Eaton Chapel. This is one of my favourite stations. It's just I feel like a unique sort of station. It's got a very unusual sort of feel to it. I'll take a couple of screenshots. Might use one of them for the video thumbnail. There's some quite cool artwork going on. Eaton Chapel, Eaton Moor, and one of the screenshots I took in development was quite cool because I like going up and down this set of stairs. But I love that view as you're coming into there. I just love that view. My favourite bit of this station, of course, is this bit. It's just beast. I love that. The little train, and again just the artwork and stuff like that, just trying to get the character of it. I'll put the hood back on. So in a second we're going to get ready to slow down for Stockport. 20-mile-an-hour coming up, so we got to go onto platform number 1 at Stockport. Stockport's where we leave the Woodby West Coast line, so we leave the line to Crewe and we head east eventually towards Hazel Grove, then on towards Sheffield via the Hope Valley. So this is Heaton Norris Junction that we're coming up to, where one of the freight lines comes in on the left. You got the box and everything in the centre of the lines here as well. I've gone on the brakes way too early there. Still on time though. And of course as we're coming down here you go onto the famous Stockport Viaduct. I'll pause it a couple of times as we're coming along here so you can sort of see the general gist of things. But this is the London and North Western Railway Company warehouse. We wanted to make sure that got created because it's, whilst it is behind those trees, it's a very unique building obviously with its history and everything. So it's now a storage depot by the looks of it, but we wanted to make sure that got put in. And quite a few landmarks at Stockport have gone in. Not all the landmarks, I should say. The pyramid's in, and but we've gone for quite a few landmarks. But the key obviously was the viaduct, and That was created by Nitin Singh, who's been with us quite a while doing assets, as he has for stuff like the Met Line and various other bits that he's been involved with over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. Most notable thing as you're coming across the Viaduct is the Regent House there, the Travelodge. So obviously I really like Piccadilly Station, but for some reason I feel like Stockport's actually my favourite on the route. I don't know why, but I just like it. I really, really like it. We'll have a good look around it in a second. I'm just letting this roll in. So we've already got the road to depart. We're due to stop about 2 minutes, so we've got plenty of time to have a look around. So you got 319s on stopping services, such as that one there, on the Hazel Grove services, and others to Crewe and places like that. But yeah, this is Stockport Station. As I said, it's probably my favourite, I think, on the route. I love Piccadilly, but there's something about Stockport. I don't know what it is about it. There's something about. I don't like the place in real life, but the station, for some reason, I do really like it. Very quiet. I'll show you around the station. So it's got 4 platforms. You've got this outside one, which is platform 4. Was it 5 platforms? I can't remember. Can't count. 6, 5, I don't know. One over there. Got another one here. Then you got the 2 main ones in the middle. And then you got platform 1 and the platform 0 over there as well on the left. Obviously, that doesn't get used anywhere near as much as the rest of them do. But you get the general idea. We try to go add as much as we can realistically to the station without going too stupid. So Stockport and Manpicky, 2 demanding areas of the route for a computer. I'd probably say Stockport in some areas, in some ways it might be a little bit more demanding. We're down at 40 FPS. It's about the same, give or take. Depending on how much stock you've got around, it's about the same, give or take, to Piccadilly. Maybe a little bit less. We should now have the road, so close the doors. Next stop for us is Sheffield, so that's 36 miles away. So we're non-stop over the valley. And it's about a 35-minute ride for us to get over there. So away now from Stockport. Just after the station we'll quickly turn left towards Hazel Grove. Quite a busy area with the junctions going left and right. So it's an interesting area through the cutting as well. Enjoy this one from the passenger view. It's quite a cool view as you go through the cutting here. So coming out onto the slow line as we depart. You've got Stockport number 1 box there, you've got Stockport Edgeley box coming up in a second as well. Briefly we can accelerate towards 40 miles an hour, but we need to then bring it back down to 25 for the junction towards Hazel Grove. And this is the cutting as we leave Stockport. And this is where, as I said, we leave the Crewe lines. If you carried on straight on here, you'd end up in Crewe eventually. We're turning left, we're going towards Hazel Grove. You can also go towards Buxton if you turn left. But we won't be doing that today. So this is where we leave the sort of hustle and bustle really of Manchester itself. We're kind of getting out a little bit. We're not out of the city itself really, we're in the city of Stockport now. So this is where we start to leave the really intense area, the route both for PC performance and also railway wise. We don't see quite as many trains now as we move further out this way. It's still pretty busy, but you don't see as many. So you got a slight climb up here, quite a sharp turn to the left, and then we'll curve back on ourselves onto the line towards as we go through Devonport and down towards Hazel Grove. So obviously you can do stopping services if you want from Piccadilly to Hazel Grove. That's a nice short scenario. I think there is one included with the route actually. In terms of route mileage, you get over 50 miles worth of route included with this one, which is, as these MML expansions go, I think that's the most we've done in one, I believe. It's certainly the most intense that's been done in one of these packs. It's by far the most inclusive, I would say. Already up to 40 mile an hour, and the gradient here does drop down towards Hazel Grove. So coming up to the first station on this route, which is the Davenport Station. You can see, as I say, the gradient really drops away just after you pass the station. And you can see, as I said there, you can that's illustrating how much the JT signals now actually, you can see them compared to what you could before. If you look at them pre this route, then you would find that they wouldn't be anywhere near as visible. So we sorted that out, Benedict sorted that out for us. And remember, to get that you'll need to download the latest Sheffield to Derby. And that's a key thing as well. If you're planning on getting Hope Valley, make sure you get at least version 1.11. So that's released on the 20th of September 2022. You need to make sure you've got at least that version if you're going to get the Hope Valley. But generally speaking, just try and keep up to date as much as you can with your MML add-ons. I know it's a lot of stress having to keep doing it all the time, but that way you stay up to date with stuff, because we do generally update quite a lot. And there'll be around of service packs to come out soon after Hope Valley. Compatibility updates mainly, but also where we see things broken, generally speaking, we do try and go back and fix it over time. Particularly if customers have been emailing support, and those things do tend to get dealt with usually quite often after a key release, once dust settled, because obviously Hope Valley will need a service pack. Every route needs a service pack after it first comes out. So that's generally when we look at the whole family of routes, and if needed, do service packs on those as well. Don't know why I'm braking. Always surprised me how this bit's 40 miles an hour. When I was doing the speed limits on the track on it, I was like, was it really 40 miles an hour? I thought it would be 60, but it is actually 40 down here. And bizarrely, it then accelerates. I think it speeds up as you go up this quite steep curve towards Hazel Grove. Christ, that's a mouthful. Hazel Grove high level. You got the two turn back sidings here that are used in one of the scenarios actually. So you can turn back your 319s in there, stuff like that. And then you get into Hazel Grove Station itself. Most of these stations have been developed by Nick. Just Trains have done a few of them. Stockport, Manpick, Leventhulme, Eaton Chapel, stuff like that. But Nick has done quite a few, including Hazel Grove himself. Don't know why I'm doing that with a horn, but tones. Just taking a leisurely drive. So we got the feather to go left. Now this is the craziest bit of the route that looks broken and looks wrong and looks like it should not exist. But it does quite crazily exist. I mean, I'm not sure I know why they did this, but it's a bit of a extremity, really, this gradient that goes up. It's like a roller coaster when you look at it. But I can assure you that's how it actually is in real life. It took a lot of time to actually get that reasonably accurate as we wanted it. And what this is all in aid of is to get that line up there, because it didn't originally go up there, to join the line from Altrincham, I believe that is. So you got the line from Altrincham coming in here, Hazel Grove high level, which was there. And then they needed to put this curve in the, I think it was in the 80s. So they had to do this crazy bit of track work with the ballast banking and stuff. So the line carries on to there towards Buxton. And there's a few miles of track in there, but it's not got like detailed scenery, it's just basic, because the problem is that the line runs alongside our line basically, and you need some sort of basic foliage and track up there. You couldn't just leave it out completely, so that's why that's in up there, but you'll not actually be able to drive anything. There's no signalling, no speed limits, no scenery. So there'll be no point in driving up there. But it was necessary to just put the basic track in. So it's quite a steep climb now. It's 1 in 53 already to get up this curve. It's now 1 in 45 as we climb up onto the Hazel Grove high level. So now, essentially, we're onto the Hope Valley proper now. We're going towards New Mill South Junction. We're on the line towards New Mills. You got the viaduct here at Hazel Grove, which is quite a nice structure in itself. That is when I press the right button. And because we're now away from the intense areas, you can see the FPS has shot right up. It's already up in the mid-70s. Now, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been informed that the 185s don't do sprinter speed limits on here, they do 75. I might be totally wrong, I might be badly informed, but I've been informed, so we'll do 70 on this section. But generally, the Hope Valley does have sprinter speed limits on it and whatnot. So I think it's 70 miles an hour for local old and other trains on this line. So we're going towards, I think it's Disley Tunnel we're going towards now, which is a really long tunnel, cuts through the hill, and essentially will bring us out at New Mills. But talk amongst yourselves a bit. Whilst we're in the tunnel, I'll just show the map again, and you can sort of see our progress and see where we are. But yeah, this is Disley Tunnel that we're about to go into. So, map-wise, you can see where we are. We've gone along this southerly route out of Manchester. We've not gone the northerly route. The northerly one is a much sort of longer sort of route, and takes a while to do it. It's I don't know what the word is. It's totally different basically to where you've been through Stockport just there in this video, and it's quite a more rural route, I guess. You've got some quite nice views and stuff on there, and it's quite cool. So it's totally different to this one. As I say, we're going through this tunnel now at Disley. What will happen then is it'll bring us out at New Mill South Junction, which is where we join the line that's gone through New Mill Central. So the trains that go that way are basically like your Manchester to Sheffield stoppers and stuff like that. Freight comes up there. Whereas on this line you get the stuff such as these, the Transpennine services go this way, and the stuff like the Liverpool to Norwich service, they come down via this route. Past another Transpennine there in the tunnel. So you got a good variety of stuff on each line. Obviously, when there's diversions and stuff, you'll get Transpennine and East Midlands and stuff like that going actually the other way via New Mill Central. And looking forward to actually seeing some diversions now, as that'll be quite cool, I guess, to see those. So, still trying to find filler to talk about in this tunnel, but it is what it is. Scenarios that's included in the route. There are obviously, as we always do with the route, we always put a lot of scenarios in the route. We haven't gone too over the top with it. We could have put in loads more. I'm sure people know that we could have put in loads more, but we didn't want to put in too many. So what we've done is we've put in 14 scenarios as we normally do that require pay-aware stock. So that requires your stuff from DTG, it requires your stuff from AP, it requires such as this Class 185 from Alton Sim and MU Studios. And And then there's 10 scenarios that have been duplicated to use just your Kuju stock, basically, your default stock. And that's obviously to facilitate people who don't have as much stock in their library. But for maximum enjoyment, we definitely recommend trying to get hold of as many AP add-ons and stuff as you can, because they make a big difference to it. So this is the final approach now to New Mill South Junction. If we weren't already on the Hope Valley, we certainly will be in a minute. That's where things really kick off, and we head up towards Chinley. The good thing about this route, particularly if you're in like Steam or something like that, is it's a good challenge with gradients and stuff. As soon as we hit through New Mills in a second, we'll go straight onto our 1A90 up to Chinley, and then onto Cowburn Tunnel. And if you're coming in the other direction from Sheffield, you're climbing it essentially 1A90 pretty much all the way from Sheffield. It's quite an extreme sectional line, really, and it's a very beautiful sectional line. So we're sort of going around the edge of New Mills town itself at the minute. What I'm doing whilst we're doing this is I will just show you across New Mill Central, because it's just across the valley, so that's how close the lines are. There are actually 3 lines in this valley, because you've got the Buxton line up here. As I said, it's very basic, but you've got the Buxton line up here. That's New Mills New Town. Again, it's completely unusable, but it's there just so you can say it's there on the hillside and whatnot. You know, you don't, obviously you're not going to go driving that, but it's there because it needs to be. It's a necessity, really. But yeah, you got the line we're on, which is obviously under this tunnel. That's actually nice for a screenshot, that. Oh. It would have been, but it's not now. And I've got the frame rate at the top. I can't turn that off on pause. Oh well. So yeah, this is New Mill Central Station. So as I say, this is where you can do scenarios. I think there's one included where you can start from this loop, which is from this side, which is interesting because it has a white light at the end of the loop. It's hard to see that in daylight because it's so bright, but it's got a white light at the end. And then you've got the station where you can start services to Piccadilly, or you can just come through, obviously, on services through to Sheffield, stopping services and stuff like that. So yeah, that's New Mill Central Station. And you got the signal box just after the station. And also where the line used to go through the tunnel there. Now the most incredible bit around here is obviously all this section, the weir and everything that you got going on. It's but this way, I don't envy Nick for having to do this in TS, because it's a pretty extreme bit of route building that's been needed, to be honest. And it's not like he's not gone over the top too much with it. He's done as much as he can, and hopefully you enjoy seeing that. But it's quite a crazy bit of route building that's had to be done there, and as I say, I don't envy him for that. But then the line comes under here, it goes through this little viaduct, and eventually it'll come to New Mill South Junction, which is what we're approaching, over New Mill's Viaduct, and it'll join onto our line. So we're just about to cross, obviously, the viaduct here. So this is now New Mill South Junction that we're coming up to. This is where you'll see the first of our new semaphore signals that we had to make for the route. There's a variety of these. There's not a huge amount. There's a small variety. The ones that are needed to be made have been made, basically. Such as the bracket signals and stuff, the assisted arms on them, and just generally sort of try to recreate as well as we can those. They're totally different to the ones that came with Nottingham Lincoln, for instance. We did different signals. Another cool thing about this box particularly is all the scaffolding going on behind it. Not sure I'd feel completely safe working in there, to be honest, knowing that I'm being held up by a lot of metal pipes. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting place. And there's also some new ground signals that we've made, so those shunt signals are completely brand new as well. And they were developed for the route. So you got the slow line coming in a second on the left, that's the loop line, and we'll be carrying on then up towards Chinley. The semaphore signalling on the route we've tried to recreate it as well as we can. Now, train seems very limited on what it can do with block signalling and stuff like that, in that it struggles to give you, say, a distance signal that then can look at the head at 2 semaphores ahead, for instance, to see if the starter's clear. Generally, such as that signal, or not that signal, but a distant signal would only see the next signal up. What we've done is we've made it so that the distant signals, the colour light distant signals, actually see up to the starting signal. So you won't get a green and then suddenly get a red at the starter, for instance, and that's quite important for us now as we're following AI and stuff. You'll get a yellow if the starter's still red, which we felt were quite important. Now the downside to that is that we tried to fix this in Nottingham Lincoln and it went catastrophically wrong. You won't get an AWS warning horn if the distant signal is essentially showing what I would call a double yellow. It'll actually be green. It'll actually be green, but no, totally wrong. It'll be yellow, but you'll get an AWS all clear sound, and that is because the signal thinks it's clear, but the starting signal is actually still on. And we tried to simulate it where you would still get a warning horn on those distant signals, but unfortunately it's just not something that we're capable of doing at this moment in time. Maybe in a service pack, if we can figure it out, we might do, but to cut all that palaver, which I've just made an absolute mess of all that, and I apologise, basically you should see realistic signals on the route now. You should see that you get a yellow if the starter's on, not a green. If you'd have tried such as some of our routes in the past, you'd have got a green at the distant, gone past the home signal, and then suddenly seen, oh, and on the starter's red, and you've got no time to slow down from 90 mile an hour, for instance. So we wanted to make sure that you could simulate that properly, and we're quite happy that we at least have got somewhere with it. Now that I've made a dog's dinner of explaining that, we'll show you Chinley. Chinley obviously used to be a massive station back in the day. There were loads of tracks going through here and stuff like that, so it's taken a bit of a downfall from those days, but it's still open. It's got some little details on it, such as these signs and stuff that Nick's added to it. Yeah, it's just a small sort of town on the edge of the Peak Forest area. So it is just after here where the lines actually go off to the right towards Peak Forest. You've got a triangle junction at Chinley. Those lines obviously aren't in this route. That would be an entirely new product in itself. And I probably should have done this sort of thing all the way through these MML videos. If you've got interest in seeing Buxton or Peak Forest, or a combination of both, in a future MML add-on, which would require Hope Valley and Sheffield to Derby obviously, then let us know in the comments, because we are keeping an eye on trying to gauge interest as to whether people would want those or not. We think people would like those, and we're well aware that people would obviously like Bedford and stuff like that as well, but certainly with Nick's interest in this area, it's something that maybe we might do in the future anyway, to Buxton and Peak Forest. So if you're interested in that, let us know in the comments, and it'd be good to see a few people in there saying they're interested in it. But I think from a personal standpoint, I think it'd be quite cool to have Tunstead and stuff in there, for stuff like you can see there, the stone trains, that you'd be able to drive across the entire MML route all the way from, say, Toton or whatever. Right now the route just ends as it goes over the viaduct. I haven't got my branding pack on apparently for the 66, but it goes up there, and that's where the line towards Peak Forest would go. Ends just south of the junction, so you can start scenarios on either one of those curves, and indeed we have done. But as I say, in future, it would be nice to start them and go all the way through, obviously, to Peak Forest and whatnot. When that happens, obviously, and if it happens, is another matter. But it's certainly on the list of things that there's interest in doing on our side. So we're coming up to the summit of the Hope Valley Line. So the summit of the Hope Valley Line is here. It's in the eastern end of Cowburn Tunnel. Cowburn Tunnel essentially is the central sort of point of the Hope Valley. It's roughly halfway along it. And we'll soon be heading into that. Still wanting sort of around 100 as you're on the approach to it. And then it's downhill then all the way to Sheffield. And it's worth noting as well with this route, guys, I wanted to make sure this is clear, it's in the manual and everything, that we dedicate this route to Paul Taylor, who works for GBRF. He sadly passed away in 2022 from cancer, and thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends. And there's not, I can't put into words how much I appreciated his time personally, from as well as for JT, but personally his time and effort to actually help out with what he helped out with in the products that we've done in the last 7 sort of years. It was a massive help to us, as we posted out on the Facebook page. You might have seen our tribute post that we did to him, and AP also did a very touching one as well. Paul never didn't have time for you. He'd say, "Oh, I'm in chemo" or something like that, and it's he's all like, "Okay, don't worry about it. You got much bigger fish to fry," basically. Half an hour later, a signal diagram or something had arrived on my desk. It's like, Jesus, man, that's how much it meant to me. I can't put into words, and just can't say thank you enough to him for what he did for us. And rest in peace, Paul, and thank you for everything you did for us. It was nothing was ever too much to ask, and really appreciate every moment of your time. So thank you, Paul, for that. As we now emerge from the darkness thereof Cowburn Tunnel, we're going down a 1 in 100 90 limit, but again I'm under instruction that the 185s don't run at 90 miles an hour on here. I'm under instruction that run at 70, so we'll run at 70. But we're racing down the bank towards Edale, and Edale is the first station that we go through in what is actually the Hope Valley. So the Hope Valley is the name given to this line, but the Hope Valley is this bit from Cowburn down through Hope, obviously, and then through to Grinduford. That is the Hope Valley per se. Again, more variety of semaphores. You've got this gantry one, which is a rather lovely example, sitting up there on its little perch. I've forgotten to have the frame rate on. You should find yourself, pretty settled around this section of the route. Sort of 70, 60, 70, generally speaking, is what we've aimed for. Again, you got Hope at Edale Station, and quite nicely captured. You got the car park and stuff. Again, this is one that Nick's done, and as are all the stations actually as we come along here. They're all stations that Nick's developed. Oh, messed that up. Don't know why I've taken a screenshot of that. We're all mess on screen, but oh well. Obviously, this was quite a challenging thing for Nick to do. With the TS does not do hilly routes very well, and this is about pushing the limit of what you can do and still look decent. You can still see the terrain paint on the hills just about. So this is about as mountainous really as you want to get in TS, but it's I think it looks very nice actually. In all honesty. But we're running under mixed signals at the moment, under call light and then semaphores when we get to stations and stuff. So it's a nice sort of mix. And we're still dropping at 1 in 100, so we're dropping very rapidly down towards Grinduford, where we go through Toddler Tunnel, which is obviously an extremely long tunnel, over 3 miles I think. But for those who haven't ever visited the Hope Valley in real life, I live about half an hour away from it. I guess I live in Barnsley, so for me it's quite local, but for those that haven't visited, it's an absolutely beautiful place to come and have a walk, particularly for walks and stuff like that. It's a really, really nice area. But it's also nice just to see trains and stuff, because you get quite a lot of freight coming up here. You get the stone trains and stuff, and cement as far as Earl Sidings. So it's quite cool to actually go out and see trains, especially if you want to see trains working quite hard. You can the way the sound carries up this valley is quite unique as well. You'll hear a 66, right down at Hope, and you'll be up at Edale and you'll hear a 66 coming. It's pretty beast. Just going to ease the brakes on yet again. So you can see the time at the bottom of the screen was actually showing when we left Stockport. We were looking like we were going to be 5 early. The reason that we looked like we were going to be 5 early is because the game probably thought that we were going to do 90 down here, whereas obviously we're doing 70. So with the times, actually we're losing time, but we're still ahead of time, if that makes sense, having into Sheffield. So we're now on the approach to Earl Sidings, which is where the junction goes off to Hope Cement Works. And that's another nice little area for shunting. The cement works itself obviously is quite busy. You've got quite a lot of stuff going on down there, and it's a good little base for scenarios and stuff like that. So another place that we're looking forward to people seeing people make scenarios. I'll pause the game whilst we're here more of it. We'll try and fly down to Hope Cement Works. I'm not sure if we'll be able to, but we'll try it. So you've got the semaphore there with backing board. You've got the box, of course. And then you've got the sidings. So you've got the semaphores at the end. And then generally across here you've got the stable sidings. These are freight line operated, hence the signage. And there's a smaller shunting signal there. And then you've got the branch itself, which carries on down here for about a mile or so. Or maybe it's over a mile, I guess about a mile and a half maybe. But it's certainly a totally different area of the route, completely different to any of the rest of it. You've got some unusual signage going on down here. A chap actually emailed us during the development and sent us pictures of these signs, which was nice. So we got those added in. There's a totally different whistle sign there, for instance. But yeah, the branch carries on. More spurious whistle boards. Oh, there we go. Trying to get the scenery to load in. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all the way in here. I doubt it. I reckon I'll get stopped as we just get to the entrance. We got all sorts of sheds and stuff, and quite a lot to get your teeth into if you're a scenario developer, or if you just want to go into a free roam scenario and have fun. There's quite a lot in there for you to do, and just shunt about and stuff like that. So again, looking forward to seeing what people can come up with in places like that. So we're now on the last few miles really of the Hope Valley. We're 15 miles from Sheffield. I guess would be about 6 miles to Grindleford, maybe less. And then we're through Toddler Tunnel and onwards to Dor, and then into Sheffield itself. We joined the Sheffield to Derby line at Dor, obviously. So we're about to go through Hope Station. Again, another station by Nick, and it's got a very interesting footbridge. It's got like 3 ways on it. Because when we first saw Nick make the model, we're like, is that real? Has it really got like 3 ways off it? But it has. Quite an unusual little place. Again, it's got a unique sort of artwork and stuff. It's got these little totem signs. Sets it apart from some of the other stations. As we now head down the valley once again. Next station that we'll go through will be Bamford. That's in another sort of 3/4 of a mile or so. Just going to ease the brakes back in again. So if you want to come down at 90 miles an hour, basically you need to be in such as a 158. They can come down here at 90. So you got the little girder bridge in a second as we come into Bamford, and then you got the station itself. Although I think I've jumped the gun there, we're not quite at Bamford yet. Clearly my route knowledge isn't what it should be. You can see there's a train there going towards Liverpool. If you noticed when we were at Hope, actually, that signal was already pulled off, which was quite realistic at Earl Sidings. There was a signal going the other way, and I noticed it was pulled off. I was like, what's that coming already? But it was pulled off ready for that to come through, which is pretty cool, I thought. So we're going over the girder bridge, and then we'll be going through Bamford Station. Again, it's another slice of unique stations. It's got its Harrington humps and stuff. Totally different again to what we've already seen. You've got the station house. It's got its own artwork again, little maps. Bamford Edge up there, that's a great walk up there on top of the edge. It's a really nice place to go. You can see the trains actually climbing up this entire valley. Now we've got a bit of a unique bit, not like unique, but a bit of a climb actually on the route here. So this is the only bit really all the way from Cowburn where it goes uphill. So I've just had to put a bit of power from there, then we'll shut off because we'll be dropping back down again. But it's quite a dramatic bit that I tried to get right using photos. And basically the gradient changes under the bridge that you can just see there. And that's where the pseudo summit is, I guess, although it's not really a bank of sorts. There you can see it goes downhill. And it levels off just as we're coming towards now Havasu Station. Havasu being a bit of a, well, not a bit of a very posh sort of little village. It's a nice place to go. Although people like me feel a bit out of place there, but it's a nice place nonetheless. Bit different to Barnes, I'll say that. But we're now coming down towards the end of the valley section itself. Not long now until we get down to Grindleford, which is where we plunge into the darkness of the tunnel. Some rather unique housing going on here. There's also the platforms here are different. They're more sort of well, not temporary, but different, modern, I guess, would be the word. But it's got its own flavour once again, and there was quite a lot of housing that Nick made here for this because it's, as I say, it's a totally different sort of look to it. So we're actually on level track at the minute. As we go through Grindleford and into Toddler Tunnel, that's when we'll find that it drops steeper. And once again, of course, with this track it's all super elevated. I should have said that a long time ago. I always get a question if the track's super elevated. Yes is the answer to that. So you got another freight coming up there. That's a cement train, so that'll be going to Hope Sidings, West Firk to Tunstead. So it's not going to Earl Sidings, it's going all the way to Tunstead, that one. So, in line with what I was saying before, if we ever extended to Buxton and Peak Forest, for instance, you'd actually be able to drive that working all the way from Leicester to its terminus at Tunstead, which would be, well, it'd be a very long scenario. It'd be certainly over 3 hours, I'm sure of it. So, but I think it's fantastic to have the thought of actually, even now, as far as Chinley, to have a scenario that's well over 2 hours in there is fantastic. To see the possibility of long freight runs. Again, looking forward to seeing what people can achieve with that in terms of scenario creation. So this is Toddler Tunnel that we've just gone through. That's Grindleford Station as well that we've just gone through. Toddler Tunnel, 6,230 yards. That's a long old tunnel, 1893. This is where I actually came to research the signals because you can get a lovely view. It was an awful damp day in February this year. Was it this year? I think it was this year. It was an awful damp day, but this is where I went to get the photos because you can actually just literally lean over the side of this bridge and get loads of photos of like the motor mechanisms and stuff on the back. So yeah, that's where we've got the reference material for them from. Or some of the reference material. We walked around, ruined my shoes to get this one as well because again that's quite a similar one. And just wanted to get plenty of pictures of those. So we're now dropping down through the tunnel here at Toddler Tunnel. I'll have to try and find some filler to talk about here because obviously I can't really think of much to talk about. I can talk about the manual, I guess. As I said, you've got 14 scenarios that come with the route. There's 27 detailed stations included, as you've seen. Many of them. You haven't seen a lot of them because there's quite a few on that section from New Mill Central. There'll be a separate video covering that. There's over 55 miles included with this route. And the pricing. So the price, it is $24.99 for this route. So that's for the extension version. The standalone version, which is to come and will go on Steam as well, will be slightly more expensive than that. But the extension version is $24.99. The manual, as normal with the JT manuals, details lots of features along the route. It's actually more of a book than a manual. Gives you all the information that you need. It gives you your requirements for your scenarios and stuff like that as well. But yeah, your manual has a lot of pictures in it about, detailing about various bits of the route, and you can learn. Even I've learned quite a few facts from it, to be fair, because Alex loves to go through and do his little facts and stuff, so you can enjoy reading that. The route is, of course, quick drive enabled. You've got quick drive consists that Benedict's been doing. He's done quite a few in there, and I think there's quite a few updates actually with the Sheffield to Derby update that's gone out. Generally speaking, there's quite a lot of updates to the quick drive scenarios. So if you've not downloaded the Sheffield to Derby update, and I've seen some people that are actually still on the original Sheffield to Derby, it's like, yeah, you're missing out quite a lot. Make sure you update to version 1.11 as this video goes live. Remember that there's still going to be updates coming quite often, so you need to have your email notifications and stuff turned on so you can actually get those. But yeah, it's important to make sure that you have that Sheffield to Derby updating, because there's so much new stuff that gets added in. We keep updating Sheffield to Derby as well. Door to Sheffield, for instance, has seen quite a few upgrades in terms of its scenery for this route with Benedict's changes that he's made. He's made a new platform asset at Dorval because the station there was just using a old loft from the era when we used those. As I was saying about signals, by the way, you can see that one nice actually through a bridge. The reason you can't see it there, you can just see it under the arch of the bridge there, the yellow in the distance. So we know already. I could see that. I can see it now in the tunnel. The update allows me to see that signal, which is well over half a mile away. And I know that I've got to get ready to slow down, whereas with the old pack I wouldn't be able to see that for about a week yet. So we've got a green here, and then the second one that we could see is the single yellow, and that's because we'll be stopping at Darwin Totley. Not stopping at the station, but we'll be stopping at the signal, because obviously you've got to join the Sheffield to Derby line there, and it's quite a busy section. It's only 5 miles then into Sheffield itself, so it's not far. Another sort of 5 minutes or so. So we can see on the right hand side there, there's a banner repeater telling us that the signal's off, that it's clear. And then you've got Toddler Tunnel East signal box and the defunct siding. We now have a green, so I can accelerate. Back up to full power. And up to line speed of 55, which drops to 50 just before the station. You've got the countdown markers and stuff as well for the signals. And if you were going to carry on towards the Irwash Valley or Nottingham or Derby or Lincoln if you were crazy, or Leicester, you could turn right here and you could play Train Sim to your heart's content. You'd be driving for a long time going to some of those places, particularly Lincoln, but you could certainly do that if you wanted to. We're just going to go left and we're going to go into Sheffield, which is generally the way that passenger trains go. Freight trains only use that line to the right. So we've got greens, and this is Darwin Totley Station. Well, it was when I pressed all the wrong buttons. As I say, Benedict's done a new platform and stuff there, so it's a bit more in line with the quality of stuff that it should be in line with. So we've got this 50-mile-an-hour junction. We will join onto the line into Sheffield, and we'll get a chance to actually get up to 90 mile an hour briefly, or 80. And I'm sure this is a piece of route that many people have seen a number of times before, because it's been in the Sheffield to Derby route for, is it now nearly 3 or 4 years it's been out? It's certainly been out a while. As I say, we continue to update it with various bits and pieces, and the plan obviously is to continue doing that. Whilst ever the Midland Main Line is an active route and we're still doing extensions, then the plan will be to continue to update it. So I know what Benedict's been doing is he's been replacing a lot of the original Cuju housing and stuff that was down here. I haven't actually seen all of it myself yet, so I'll see it in a minute, obviously. Yeah. So for those that remember the original Cuju route, the original route, that was all Cuju housing there originally, which has been completely replaced by the newer JT housing that Benedict's done. So it's little things like that that he's done on this section that make a difference. So that all the way from Manchester you feel like you're on a modern JT route rather than one that's 4 years old. And there's some other little changes, like there's some mills and stuff on the right here that he's changed to be a bit more in line with what's actually there. Just on this final approach now into Sheffield. We had a yellow, so I need to ease it down to a very slow speed here for the signal. We always have fun with these signals because they love not to work. Simple fix for that is just press tab as you approach. I don't know why they... we've worked on these so many times. We must have worked on these about 50 times trying to get these signals to work. And short of the lawn is they simply don't like some platforms. And I think they pick when particular stuff, like when I'm doing a video, for when they don't want to work. But I hope you've enjoyed this run anyway. From a personal standpoint, it's quite incredible actually to have this available now in Train Sim. When I started working with JT to develop Sheffield to Derby, must be 5 years ago since it was originally started. It's got to be. We had a plan in the mind to do an MML set of routes. There was the idea there that it could be the new Western Main Lines and new sets of routes that we could develop. I don't think we ever sort of really expected to be able to achieve so much with it in terms of the overall routes that we've added to it, and still realise that there's room to add more yet in future if we want to. It's still, for the most part, it's very stable. Certain areas, if you go to certain areas, you might find it's not, and you do too much in the way of AI, but that's train sim. I think that, there's so many different directions that it could head in the future. Obviously our future, lies more in train sim world these days, and it's a case of third party developers might be wanting to work on this in the future like Nick has. But obviously there's still a chance that we'll work on it as well. But everyone that's bought these routes, we really appreciate the support. I personally appreciate the support, and the company also really appreciate the support that you've given us to let us be able to do these routes, and I hope you've enjoyed them, and I hope we'll be able to let you continue enjoying them in the future. But yeah, cheers for all the support over the years. And if you've got requests on where you'd like us to head, I know the obvious one is going to be Bedford and St Pancras and stuff like that, but there are different places that this could go. This could go to Leeds one day, it could go to Doncaster, it could go to other places, and it'd be interesting to know just what you guys want and what people, to sort of gauge the community, to see what the community would like. So don't be afraid to comment and say what your ideas would be for MML extension. You can request other routes if you want really as well, but I'm talking mainly about extensions directly from the Midland Main Line as it is at the moment. The caveats I would add in is that we won't be going west of Manchester, I don't think. The very minimal chance we would, but certainly nothing's planned at the moment. There's no real reason for us to go west of Manchester, so I don't foresee that happening. And the caveat, as I said, is that we're mostly working on Train Sim World these days. That doesn't mean that Train Sim's dead, though. Not by any means. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, guys. Well, before we go, I should just give credits to the people that have been involved with this route. And in terms of the route developers, the 99% of it has been developed by Nicholas Wisniewski. Again, Nick, I'm sorry if I've completely obliterated that. Track lane was by myself, and Tom also helped out on some of the scenery as well. Custom objects, Goose Studios, obviously for the track that we use. And then on the custom assets side of things, you've got Benedict and Callum, who actively developed with knitting on this one in terms of new assets, previous assets by Alexander Penfold, Wilstead and Tom Williams, and also a hell of a lot of custom objects by Nick once again, so big thanks to him. Scenarios by myself and Tom, and also Malcolm Elliott for the Hope Cement Works one. Benedict did the QDs, and then on the JT side, yeah, thanks to Alex as always for the project management. Installer by Martin Wright, and all the other stuff in there, particularly those guys that I'm sure you'll be dealing with at some point, the support team, which is Craig, Mark and Dan. And as I said before, earlier in this video, a massive special thanks to Paul Taylor, and really appreciate everything that he's done. Without Paul, you wouldn't have the Midland Main Line family of routes. You certainly wouldn't have any decent signal in them in terms of how they operate. A lot of that's thanks to Paul. And once again, condolences to Paul's family and friends, and just a big thank you for everything they did for us. Also thanks to Kerry Hewitt, who was a driver for EMR, and to Sean Gregory, who assisted me with track where I was a dodo and can't work out what to do. And lastly but not least, massive thanks to all the testers who give all their time for free to help us get as smooth a product out as we possibly can. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and look forward to seeing you sometime in the future, guys. See you later. Bye.